The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Exopolitics, paranormal phenomena, and deep analysis of current world events. From somewhere in the desert, between Area 51 and Roswell, blasting across the planet, the Manticore Network proudly presents Veritas, because the truth will set you free.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
It was too fast to be an airplane.
I think it's time to open the books on the question of government investigations of UFOs. We ought to do it really because it's right. We ought to do it because the American people, quite frankly, can handle the truth. And we ought to do it because it's the law.
Be skeptical. Do be as skeptical as you want, but by all, don't close your mind.
Greetings to everyone around the world, and a warm welcome to another edition of Veritas, where we uncover the truth, one guest at a time. For those who dare to seek, Veritas is the place where they shall find. I'm your host, Mel Fabregas, and I sincerely thank you for joining me once again. And if this is your first time, make yourself at home. I want to thank all our members. As always, you are keeping Veritas alive. First, I want to take a moment to commemorate the men and women who have given their lives to preserve our freedom. I also want to commemorate those who did not perish in conflict, but who spent a lifetime devoted to the same pursuit. We salute you. Tonight's special guest is Jay Weidner, Life After Death, Ancient Texts, and the Vril. Believe me when I tell you that this is one of those shows you may have to listen to multiple times in order to absorb everything. This show is almost 3 hours long. I want to thank Cliff High, who referred me to Jay Weidner. It was a great choice. And speaking of Cliff High, many of you have contacted me saying that Cliff has just issued a new Shape of Things to Come report. Apparently, the information contained could not wait, so this report came out all of a sudden. So I encourage you to support Cliff and purchase this report. Traditionally, we do a show with Cliff when a new report comes out, and although Cliff would love to, he is going through some personal matters that will prevent him from doing any interviews at this time, perhaps for the rest of the year. Let's send Cliff and his family some positive thoughts. Cliff is an integral part of the Veritas family, so if you need anything, Cliff, all you need to do is ask. And if you want to listen to the entire show and want a free subscription, we need help transcribing shows. If you are ready and fully capable to transcribe a show, visit the free subscription link on our website. There are only 3 days left for the special offer. You have until May the 31st to participate, and I will give you a 6-month subscription. After May the 31st, it goes back to 3 months, so don't wait. To listen to the complete version of this and all our past and future shows, become a member. You'll receive immediate access to all our inventory of shows, that's 78 to date, and a few voice chats. the Manticore Forum, and the Veritas chat room. Just head on over to our website, veritasshow.com, click on subscribe, and take Veritas with you. And I want to congratulate our very first winner of the This Space Up for Auction campaign. You can see the winner right on our website. The winner will receive 30 days of advertising on our main page. And the auction for the other spot is now underway on eBay. So if you didn't win on the first one, here's your chance to win now. The auction started today and will end on Monday, June the 7th. Don't wait. Bid now. Next week's special guest is Dr. Joseph Vril, followed by James Gilliland and Jim Mars. Great shows coming your way. For updates and more news, visit our website and our forum. That's where the real discussion is taking place. Remember, my interaction with you does not end with the show. It only begins. And now, get ready to open new mental doors you never thought existed. Is there life after death? What do the ancient texts say, and what's being hidden from us in many ways? Did the Nazis really lose the war, or are they still active and involved in something unimaginable? Find out who really rules the planet and what their final plan is. If you want to continue living the illusion programmed by the rulers, stop this audio now. If you want to know the truth, don't go anywhere. Jay Weidner is coming up next. This is Mel Fabregas, and you're listening to Veritas. Most of the great music you hear right here on the Veritas Show is supplied by the independent artists from Jamendo.com. If you hear a song you like, go over to our homepage, veritasshow.com, click on the guest, look up the song, and download it. You can even buy the group's CDs, in many cases right there at Jamendo.com.
This is Richard C. Hoagland, and you are listening to Veritas.
Jay Weidner, author, filmmaker, co-author of numerous works, and has produced and directed documentary films 2012, The Odyssey, Secrets of Alchemy, Earth, Under Fire, and many others. Since 2000, Jay Weidner has been the president of Sacred Mysteries Productions, a company dedicated to producing high-quality films that challenge perceptions and help understand the nature of reality. His most recent work, a documentary film entitled Infinity, The Ultimate Trip, Journey Beyond Death. And directly from Oregon, I would like to introduce for the first time on Veritas, Jay Weidner. Hello, Mr. Weidner, and thank you for being on Veritas. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And may I call you Jay?
Yes, no problem.
Thank you. You know, Jay, after Cliff High's last appearance on this show, he said you have to have Jay Weidner on your show. So I'm glad we got it done. What a great lineup. We had Cliff High, Richard C. Hoagland. Now we have you. Next week we have Joseph Vril.
Wow.
So if anyone wants to connect the dots, these are the people to listen to, don't you think?
I would say that's a fairly dynamic lineup, yes. Some of my favorite people, yes.
Absolutely. As we always do on this show, Jay, give us some background of yourself and how you got to research all these fascinating topics.
Well, let's see. I give you my regular spiel, which is I was a materialist, a scientist, a journalist, and atheist. Pretty much thought that the world could be saved by science and technology, and didn't believe in anything outside of what I could see in my and hold in my hands. And in 1986, I'm also an avid book collector. I went to a garage sale, and I purchased 20 books for $20, hardcover esoteric books, which I still own all of them. And one of the books I purchased was a book called Mystery of the Cathedrals by a gentleman with one name, Fulcanelli. And I thought it was about architecture, actually, and I love Gothic cathedral architecture, so I took it home, and it was the first book I decided to read. And I sat down and, thinking I'm a pretty smart guy, began reading the book, and I couldn't understand what I was reading, and I couldn't believe it. And so I went back and I started it over again. And after about 10 or 11 times of reading the book, it finally began to sink in. And what the guy was saying, this mysterious guy named Fulcanelli, was that the Gothic cathedrals in Europe, of which there's about 500 of them made between 1100 and 1300, were built by alchemists, and that alchemy is an ancient science which comes from at least ancient Egypt, if not earlier, and that there is a different kind of science in alchemy than the science that we know, and it's a science of transmutation. And another thing that I discovered while reading the book was that he has a curious habit of italicizing some words in the text, so I decided to investigate every word that he italicized, of which there's about 700. And about 14 years later, I printed my first book, Monument to the End of Time, with Vincent Bridges, and then 4 years later, the follow-up, Mysteries of the Great Cross of Henday, Alchemy at the End of Time. And all of it is a direct result of my finding this book, to which I now believe the book was written on purpose by Fulcanelli, who is definitely a high-ranking member of some kind of secret society, and the whole intention of the book is to initiate the reader. Of course, only the reader who persists. And so I was initiated into a advanced form of science by this book and the subsequent researching of all the italicized words in the book. And that's where I got how I got here today, where I'm anything but like I was. I'm not a materialist anymore. I realize the world is much different than I was taught in college, and so here I am, a completely changed man because of one book.
It's interesting how we all go through transformations, but the title of this episode is Life After Death, Ancient Texts, and the Vril. So we'll be discussing a vast area of knowledge. Jay, to start, the topic of life after death is something that many people can't wrap their minds around. Recently, I had Dr. Rauni Kilde, former chief medical officer from Finland, on the show, and she wrote a book called There Is No Death. In essence, our body is like a car. Our car breaks down, you open the door, and you get into another car, or you are in a room and simply move to another room. Do you subscribe to that point of view?
Yeah, one of the things about alchemy that's interesting about it is that it teaches about higher dimensions, and when you begin to understand higher dimensions, you can see that the body, or this third dimension that we live in, is really just a small part of a larger underlying infrastructure of interdimensions. And so we are, the body is just the center part of a complex toroidal vortex, and which surrounds our body. And just the very, very, very center of the vortex is where the body is located. And 90% of the higher dimensional field that lies around the body is outside the body. So the body is just a very small part that solidifies when this donut-shaped field begins coagulating towards the center. And when you realize this and you see it and you understand that all life is driven by this fifth-dimensional verticular toroidal source, then you realize and all planets and stars and suns and are also possess, or most of them do, possess this field. Then you begin to realize that you are eternal and you are infinite, and I am infinite, and everything is infinite, and it just manifests as a solid object for a brief period of time. And when it lifts off the surface of the earth, which it does at death, it travels up a long tube, which the Sanskrit text called the Sushumna, and this